what's your take then on this whole conversation? We briefly talked about it with contact, which I think relates to the cosmos. What's your take on what's going on here? Or what's your opinion? But like I said, I'm not the aliens guy. I'm fascinated as much as any human should be, right? In terms of like the people that blow this off entirely, I don't think grasp. Like, I think it's the equivalent of people that blow off AI, for example. And when you have like, I think it was either Sundar Pichai or I think it was him or Larry Page. One of the Google guys said AGI, General Artificial Intelligence, is the equivalent of man discovering fire. You're like, wait a minute, what? You want to say that again for me? And you're like, you can't ignore that, right? That's not, he didn't say like, oh, it's Internet 3.0, right? It's like, he's like, this is going to change things fundamentally. In that regard, I think contact is the same way. It will change things. Now, by the way, disclosure's already done. That's been done for 50 years or 20 years. They've openly been saying that. They're having hearings. They all agree that this is actually happening. Now, what is happening is the question. Like because you've really taken time to deep dive into this and research, not writing for sensational, to be sensational, I should say. What's going on with this contact and UAP UFO situation in your opinion?
Well, I'm writing about it for the very reason you said that this is a topic you can't ignore. It's too foundational to our civilization to ignore it. So with that preface, I would say that I don't fully understand what's happening, especially with disclosure, because the government's history, and I have a chapter on this in the book, An End to Upside Down Contact, is one of non-transparency. I mean, it's one of deception and hiding the truth. So anytime the government's coming out with a narrative, I'm just asking, are there some truths in this? Are they trying to get us to believe something for some reason? Are they trying to cover up their past lies in some way? So the hearings to me are just confusing. And I think that they are not talking about consciousness nearly enough, because really this gets down to the phenomena like abduction and the near-death experiences. You've got to get metaphysical with this, and often they're not going there. So it makes me a little bit worried that they're so focused on the physical aspects with it. I simply don't know where this is going to go, because to me it ultimately ties back to what are the true origins of humanity, and what's our real history, and how are these beings, and I use these beings in capital letters almost because, or some people would use them in capital letters to say that it's a uniform monolithic thing. I wouldn't. I would say there are probably many species that have different interests and have had different impacts on our civilization. So this stuff is so complex. It's like, which species have which interests and for how long, and are they even working with governments with this? Are they steering the narrative? Which ones are benevolent? Which ones aren't? To me, I just think we're not alone. And like I say in the book, I don't think they're all necessarily benevolent. I think some are probably nefarious. I think this has been going on for a long time, and they're definitely affecting our civilization in some way. And you've got to incorporate consciousness. It's not just physical. Like, those are some of the key points in my book. So those things I feel pretty comfortable with. Beyond that, it's just a confusing mess.
I mean, there's things that you talk about in that book, like implants, and you're naming names and specific doctors, right? A lot of these, none of these are at the press club hearings that they're having, and they have been having since I think 99 or 2001, right? So you're like, why are none of these? Are they totally bogus, and that's why, and they've already been disproven, but you just want to give them a fair chance, so you feel the need to put them in your books? Or like, why are they just being blatantly ignored?
Great question. I don't know. I mean, it might just be too hard for people to believe, too much to handle. These hearings they're so focused on just crafts in the sky and the movements, and it's like just a hot topic culturally. Whereas you talk about like Dr. Roger Leir writing his book, The Aliens and the Scalpel, talking about the surgeries he performed to remove weird things from people that had similar
By the
characteristics.
way, if this guy's crazy and became a physician, I think that enough shows, like, is he on SSRIs? What's going on here to make him just write this book if he's just making it up, like that's clinically psychotic behavior if you just wrote that book and you're making that up, right? Am I wrong when I say that? That's crazy.
Well, I mean,
right?
It's so.
But if he's serious, you're like, he's putting people under general anesthesia doing surgeries. Not all of them are alien based, so something's happening here, right?
Well, and he's got pictures in the book, and there were people there to witness the surgeries, pictures of the things he removed from people, and there are other doctors. So in Roger Lear's book, The Aliens and the Scalpel, he talks about this one case of an implant that started moving around when he tried to remove it as if it were intelligent. But then I quote in the book another doctor who was removing implants.
I don't know what just fell. Something just fell. My door. I have a key thing. Yo, sorry. I muted my mic so you couldn't hear that. I have a thing on my door. Yo, I just got full goosebumps. Bro, so I have a key thing on my door and I hang up my car keys in my door. My son and my wife didn't wake up. But that just fell. That was very loud. I wish my mic wasn't muted. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, weird things.
Wow, that freaked me out, man.
Yeah, and we're talking about a freaky
ahead.
topic of implants moving, evading surgeons.
This is what I'm talking about.
And there was another example. Whitley Strieber, he talked about attempts to remove an implant that he has that it was evading the surgeon. So 2 different surgeons trying to remove moving implants. I think I got that right. It's been a while since I looked at those passages, but yeah, I mean, that blew me away because it's not just one surgeon that's talking about this. Now, what the origin of these implants, like what's the origin? They could be government implants. There are a lot of things that we don't know about this stuff. There's also a book called The Hair of the Alien that I mentioned. That it's a wild story of this guy that had an alien encounter, and it was a sexual encounter, and there was hair left in his private region as a result, and he kept it and found Bill Chalker, who was a researcher, and they did forensic level analysis on this hair. I have questions now about genomics in general, but based on their analysis, they found some very strange properties of the hair. I mean, reading these books, it's incredible amount of effort and money and time that went into these analyses. I don't know for sure what's going on, but it's weird, and certainly there's not a lot of funding going towards these areas. And I know this a lot because I'm on the board of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which has been around for about 50 years. And the organization studies phenomena scientifically, like energy healing and mind-matter interactions and mediumship, which is deceased energies communicating with the deceased, basically, lucid dreaming, all these kind of weird things, quote unquote paranormal, but doing it in a scientific manner. And I know what the funding environment is like for that sort of thing relative to any mainstream cause. So that's another thing with this stuff. A counter argument I've heard is like, Mark, if these things were real, then there would be a lot more scientific evidence to prove it. And it's sort of self-fulfilling argument. And I would say, yeah, there isn't as much scientific evidence in the way that you want it, but it's also not being funded. It's also dangerous to study these things. There are a lot of reasons, financially, sociologically, that keep people away from getting more evidence.
I mean, we're seeing that from anthropologists. We're seeing that from geologists. Those are, I'm not saying that the history of mankind is less important. I'm simply saying it's a little less dangerous when you're digging up rocks versus some of these things that we've talked about now, right? I mean, especially given the last couple years, right? Unbelievable. What's going on, guys? If you like that clip right there, you will love the full interview. You can check that out right there. I'll see you on the next video. Oh, and subscribe because we got a lot of big things coming up in the near future.